Dr. Nina Petrov stared at her holographic display with the kind of exhausted resignation usually reserved for people stuck in interminable meetings about meetings, which, technically, this was, except the meeting was about why humanity hadn't died on schedule. "Let me get this straight," she said, leaning back in her chair at Earth's galactic health monitoring station. "You're upset because your genocide attempt failed?" The Vraxian delegation, 3 military cephalopods whose tentacles were currently tied in what she'd learned to recognize as extreme distress, shifted uncomfortably in their enviro suits. The lead diplomat, whose translated name was something unpronounceable that sounded like gargling gravel, managed what passed for a nod. The X-47 hemorrhagic death plague was designed to be efficient, Gravel Gargle said, his translator adding an apologetic inflection that his species probably didn't actually possess. 72 hours from exposure to complete systemic collapse. It had a 19% mortality rate in laboratory conditions across 47 different carbon-based species. "Except us," Nina said flatly. "Except you," the Vraxian confirmed, somehow making it sound like an accusation. Nina took a moment to appreciate the sheer absurdity of her current situation. 3 months ago, she'd been a burned-out immunologist processing routine health screenings for human colonists, wondering if she'd wasted her career studying diseases that barely existed anymore thanks to modern medicine. Now she was sitting across from representatives of an alien empire who were having an existential crisis because their bioweapon had given humanity the sniffles. "Walk me through this again," she said, pulling up her own data files. "Your theoretical extinction weapon, which I'm assuming was never supposed to leave theoretical status, somehow got loose 6 weeks ago." "There was an incident," another Vraxian offered weakly. "An incident." Nina's voice could have frozen helium. "You accidentally released a doomsday virus." The containment protocols were believed to be adequate. They weren't. And the exposure vector was limited to 3 human colony vessels in the Epsilon sector. Nina scrolled through the infection reports, each one more ridiculous than the last. Patient 0 through patient 2000 exhibited identical symptoms: mild fever, body aches, fatigue, and an inexplicable craving for salty foods. Every single one recovered within 72 hours. Most of them had worked through it. "You built a virus to liquefy our internal organs," she said slowly, "and instead it gave us what we call a bad weekend." "Your species' resilience is unprecedented," Gravel Gargle said, and now his translator was definitely adding tones that weren't there. "Fear, maybe. We've been monitoring your biological responses. Dr. Petrov, the virus didn't fail. Your immune systems didn't reject it." "Obviously they did, or we'd be dead." "No." The Vraxian pulled up a holographic model that made Nina's jaw drop. "They incorporated it." Nina leaned forward, her exhaustion evaporating as her scientific brain kicked into high gear. The model showed human white blood cells, specifically T cells and macrophages, doing something that should have been impossible. They weren't destroying the viral invaders. They were taking them apart, reprogramming their genetic code, and integrating the useful bits into humanity's existing immune response. "That's not how immunology works," Nina said. "It's not how anyone's immunology works," the Vraxian replied. "Except yours, apparently." She ran the simulation again, watching in fascination as human immune cells treated the galaxy's most deadly bioweapon like a free upgrade package. The virus tried to hijack cellular machinery to replicate, standard viral behavior, but human cells just hijacked it back. Stripped out the lethal components, kept the enhanced cellular communication protocols, and added the whole thing to their defensive arsenal. "We didn't fight off your virus," Nina said slowly. "We mugged it and stole its lunch money." "Your metaphor is imprecise but essentially correct." Nina sat back, pressing her fingers to her temples. This was either the greatest immunological discovery in human history or the beginning of a very weird interstellar incident. Possibly both. Okay, she said. So, humanity accidentally weaponized your weapon. That's embarrassing for you, but why the emergency delegation? Why show up in person to confess to attempted genocide? The three Vraxians exchanged looks, or at least their tentacles did things that seemed to convey communication. Because it's spreading, Gravel Gargle said quietly. What's spreading? The original virus? Because I hate to break it to you, but that ship has sailed. Literally, those colony vessels have made 17 port calls across 9 systems. Not the original virus. The Vraxian pulled up new data, and Nina felt her stomach drop. The modified version, the one your immune systems created. The holographic display showed a cascade of new infection reports. Vraxian crew members who'd had contact with recovered human patients. Station personnel who'd processed the colony ships. Traders, diplomats, port authority workers, all reporting sudden, dramatic improvements to their immune function. You're telling me, Nina said carefully, that we turned your bioweapon into a contagious vaccine. A contagious, self-modifying, aggressively beneficial vaccine that appears to forcibly upgrade any immune system it encounters, the Vraxian corrected. 3 of our diplomatic staff have been exposed. They've already reported complete recovery from chronic conditions they've had for cycles. One of them regenerated a limb that was injured in combat 20 years ago. That's actually amazing? It's terrifying. Gravel Gargle's tentacles writhed in agitation. We don't know what this will do. Long term, we don't know if it will stop spreading. We don't know if it will mutate into something actually dangerous. And most importantly, he leaned forward, his large eyes somehow managing to convey desperate emphasis despite being completely alien. We don't know how to explain to the Galactic Council that we accidentally started a plague of health. Nina stared at him. Then she started laughing. It wasn't professional, and it definitely wasn't diplomatic, but the sheer cosmic irony of the situation was too much. I'm sorry, she gasped, wiping tears from her eyes. It's just, you tried to commit genocide, and instead you might have accidentally cured disease, galaxy-wide. The universe has a sense of humor, and it hates you. This is not amusing, Dr. Petrov. It's a little amusing. She pulled herself together, calling up her own monitoring data from Earth's health network. If this modified virus was as contagious as the Vraxians claimed, there should be evidence of secondary spread beyond the initial colony ship contacts. There was. Oh, there definitely was. Station workers on Proxima Relay reporting unusual wellness. Trade partners mentioning that their chronic pains had vanished. Even some data from deeper in Vraxian space showing unexplained immunity, boosts in personnel who'd never met a human directly, just handled cargo that humans had touched. How long have you known about this? Nina asked. 2 weeks. And you're just telling us now? We were hoping it would stop. Nina pulled up a projection model, feeding in the transmission data. The modified virus spread through casual contact, airborne transmission, and possibly even environmental surfaces. It had an incubation period of roughly 12 hours before the recipient's immune system began its dramatic upgrade, and it showed no signs of burning out or losing potency. The projection finished calculating. Nina stared at the results. According to this, she said slowly, at current transmission rates, 70% of the known galaxy will be exposed within 6 months. Yes, Gravel Gargle said miserably, and everyone who's exposed will experience significant improvements to their immune function, disease resistance, and general health. Preliminary data suggests yes. And there's no way to stop it because it's being carried by humans who are just living their normal lives, completely unaware they're walking biological upgrade stations. Correct. Nina looked at the Vraxian delegation, at their obvious distress over having accidentally made the galaxy a healthier place. She thought about the irony of a military empire being defeated by their own bioweapon backfiring into universal healthcare. She considered the implications of humanity becoming the galaxy's unwitting immune system. Then her console beeped with an urgent priority alert. Dr. Petrov, the automated system announced, emergency medical report from Vraxian battlecruiser Indomitable. Crew reporting spontaneous immunity to all shipboard biological weapons, requesting immediate consultation. Note: Indomitable is currently en route to Earth as part of quarantine enforcement fleet. Nina looked up at the Vraxians. Are you telling me your own warships are being infected by our improved immune response? The Indomitable had contact with your colony ships during initial containment attempts, Gravel Gargle admitted, and now they're immune to their own weapons. Apparently. The weapons they were bringing to enforce quarantine on humanity. Yes. Nina leaned back in her chair and smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who just realized that the universe's sense of humor was even better than she'd thought. Gentlemen, she said, I think we need to have a longer conversation about exactly what humanity just did to your military effectiveness. But first, she pulled up a connection to Earth's Galactic Relations Office. We need to tell my people that we've accidentally turned into a contagious cure. Because if there's one thing humans are good at, it's making the best of a really, really weird situation. The Vraxians' tentacles drooped in what she was learning to recognize as resignation. You're not worried? Gravel Gargle asked. Worried? Nina laughed. You tried to kill us with a virus, and we accidentally turned it into the galaxy's immune system. I'm not worried. I'm fascinated. This is the best job I've ever had. She paused, a thought occurring to her. Although I should probably ask, are there any other species out there who've tried to kill humanity with biological weapons? Because if this is going to become a pattern, I'm going to need a bigger laboratory. The Vraxians didn't answer. Their silence was more telling than words. Nina sighed. Of course there are. Why wouldn't there be? Her console beeped again, then 17 more times in rapid succession. Dr. Petrov, the automated system said, its tone somehow managing to convey panic, despite being completely artificial. Multiple emergency medical reports incoming from across 9 systems. Species reporting spontaneous immune system upgrades following human contact. Galactic Health Authority requesting immediate briefing. Warning: quarantine protocols failing across all enforcement zones. Nina pulled up the reports, watching in real time as her worst-case scenario, or was it best case? She genuinely couldn't tell anymore, spread across her screen like a map of inevitable cosmic comedy. Well, she said to the increasingly distressed Vraxians, I think we're past the point where you can keep this quiet. The galaxy's about to find out that humanity isn't just hard to kill, we're contagious. The Galactic Council's emergency session was, in Nina's professional opinion, the most entertaining disaster she'd ever witnessed. And she'd once seen a lab intern accidentally create a self-replicating mold that learned to open refrigerators. She attended via hologram. The Council had very firmly requested she not attend in person, citing biological contamination concerns, which was diplomatic speak for, please don't breathe on us. Nina had agreed, mostly because it meant she could attend in comfortable clothes while eating snacks they couldn't see. The council chamber was chaos incarnate. Representatives from 47 species were all talking, or chittering, or humming, or whatever their species did, at once. The Stharians, insectoid academics who took themselves far too seriously, were frantically presenting holographic papers with titles like Humanity, Biological Warfare Entities Disguised as Primitive Mammals, and The Viral Uplift Hypothesis, Are Humans Cosmic Plague Vectors? Nina munched on her chips, quietly, because even she had some shame, and waited for someone to notice her presence. Order! The council arbiter, a being of pure energy that manifested as an extremely judgmental cloud, finally got everyone's attention. We will hear from the human representative. Dr. Petrov, please explain why your species is turning the galaxy into a biological experiment without permission. First of all, Nina said, setting down her chips, we didn't do this on purpose. The Vraxians tried to kill us, remember? We just happened to be really bad at dying. A Ztharian scientist, Dr. Vixthrall, according to the translation overlay, skittered forward with 6 limbs worth of academic outrage. Our research indicates this is no accident. Humanity exhibits 17 distinct biological anomalies that suggest deliberate engineering for immune system aggression. We call that evolution on a death world, Nina replied. Earth is what happens when a planet decides to make everything as lethal as possible and then watches what survives. Impossible! No natural evolution could produce such aggressive adaptive immunity. Have you met a virus? Nina pulled up her own presentation, much less dramatic than the Ztharian papers, mostly because she'd made it during the shuttle ride over and hadn't bothered with fancy graphics. Look, this is basic immunology. Humanity spent millions of years getting attacked by literally everything on our planet. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites, each other. You were attacked by your own species? A crystalline luminary representative shimmered with confusion. Constantly. We're very creative about it. Anyway, we developed immune systems that don't just defend. They learn, adapt, and improve with every threat. You don't survive Earth by playing defense. You survive by turning every attack into a lesson. This is precisely our concern. A Korthax military strategist slammed 3 of his 4 arms on his podium. You've turned biological warfare into a joke. Do you understand what you've done to military doctrine? Nina blinked. Made it healthier. You've made it obsolete. The Korthax was genuinely upset, his reptilian face flushing with color. 3 of our primary defense fleets have been exposed. They're now immune to 80% of our biological deterrents. How are we supposed to maintain territorial integrity when our own weapons don't work? Have you considered not using biological weapons? The silence that followed was deafening. That's not the point. The Korthax recovered his composure. The point is that humanity has fundamentally altered the galactic security paradigm without consultation, treaty, or warning. Again, Nina said patiently, you tried to kill us first. This is just the consequences of your actions coming back to bite you, except instead of biting, they're aggressively making you healthier. I really don't see the downside here. A new hologram appeared, medical data from across 9 systems. The Arbiter projected it for everyone to see, and even Nina had to admit it was impressive. Species that had suffered from chronic illnesses for generations were spontaneously recovering. Plague-ridden colonies were reporting 0 new infections. Hospital systems across multiple civilizations were experiencing unprecedented drops in patient counts. One entire species, the Morphean Collective, had eliminated a genetic disorder that had plagued them for 3,000 years. This happened in 6 weeks, the Arbiter said, its cloud form swirling with what might have been concern. 6 weeks of contact with humanity and fundamental disease patterns that have existed for millennia are simply gone. You're welcome, Nina offered. We didn't ask for this. You literally tried to kill us with a plague. You started this whole thing. We just finished it differently than you expected. Dr. Vixthrall skittered forward again, mandibles clicking frantically. Our latest research indicates the modified virus is not merely spreading, it's evolving. Each time it encounters a new species, it adapts their immunological data and incorporates it into its base code. It's creating a galaxy-wide immune network with humanity as the central hub. Okay, that's actually pretty cool, Nina admitted. It's terrifying. You're turning the galaxy into a single interconnected biological system. So, universal healthcare, but make it viral? The Ztharian made a sound like a tea kettle having an existential crisis. This is not a joke, Dr. Petrov. We've documented cases of species beginning to share immunological responses across light years of distance. A Vraxian on one side of the sector develops resistance to a toxin, and within hours, other Vraxians who've been exposed to the human-modified virus show the same resistance. Nina sat up straighter. Wait, really? That's not supposed to be possible. And yet it's happening. Your species has turned the concept of individual immune systems into a collective network. You're making us into lymph nodes, Nina suggested. Are we the lymph nodes of the galaxy? Because that's simultaneously the most disgusting and most hilarious thing I've ever heard. This is serious, the Korthax military strategist pulled up tactical displays. We've deployed 17 containment fleets to limit human contact with other species. Do you know what happened? They got healthy. Their crews got exposed during boarding actions. Now we have 17 fleets that are immune to their own biological security protocols. We've effectively disarmed ourselves trying to contain you. Nina tried not to laugh. She really did. But the image of military fleets accidentally neutralizing their own weapons through the power of improved immune function was too perfect. I'm sorry, she said, not sounding sorry at all. But you have to admit, there's a certain poetic justice to this. You built a weapon to kill us quietly, and instead, we've made you healthier and disarmed your military. That's not warfare, that's karma with a sense of humor. Karma is not a recognized galactic force, the Arbiter said stiffly. Maybe it should be. A new alert appeared on everyone's displays. Nina read it and felt her amusement shift toward genuine concern. She said. Is anyone else seeing reports of luminary crystal forms beginning to glow in the presence of humans? The luminary representative, who had been quietly observing until now, began to emit what Nina's translator unhelpfully labeled as religious ecstasy frequencies. The blessed healers have arrived, the luminary sang, their crystal structure resonating. The ancient prophecies spoke of beings who would purify the galaxy through sacred touch. We must make pilgrimage. We must receive the holy blessing. Oh no, Nina said. What's wrong? The Arbiter asked. They think we're Space Jesus. That's not entirely inaccurate from their perspective, Dr. Vix Thrall admitted, pulling up luminary cultural files. Their dominant religion has prophecies about healers from the outer darkness who would bring an age of purification through direct contact. We're not healers, we're just carriers of a virus that used to be a weapon. To them, the distinction is irrelevant. Nina watched as the luminary representative began broadcasting to their entire species. Within minutes, her console was flooded with requests for pilgrimage routes to human settlements and protocols for receiving the sacred blessing. This is getting out of hand, she muttered. Getting. The Korthax laughed bitterly. Dr. Petrov, it got out of hand the moment your immune system decided to recruit our bioweapon. Now we're just watching the galaxy reorganize itself around humanity, whether we want it to or not. Another alert. Then another. Nina's console began chiming with incoming reports from across known space. Trade stations reporting humans being mobbed by aliens seeking the touch. Black market dealers selling used human tissues as medical supplies. A Zatharian university offering 10,000 credits for a sample of human saliva. Someone had paid 50,000 credits for a tissue that someone claimed a human had sneezed into. I'm in the wrong business, Nina said faintly. Dr. Petrov, the Arbiter said, its cloud form darkening. We have a new priority alert. It's marked urgent and encrypted with the highest security protocols. What now? The Arbiter hesitated. A being of pure energy actually hesitated before speaking. The architects are responding to our distress beacon. Every representative in the chamber went silent. Even the Luminari stopped their religious broadcasting. The who? Nina asked. The species that created the original virus, the Vraxian delegate said quietly. The ones we acquired it from, they're ancient, very ancient, and very particular about their biological weapons being used correctly. Define correctly. They designed it to eliminate species quietly and efficiently. You turned it into a galactic health initiative. They're going to want to fix their mistake. Nina felt a chill run down her spine. Fix it how? They're bringing a countervirus, one designed to reset galactic biology back to its original state. They're going to cure everyone of being healthy? They're going to cure everyone of being infected with human immunity, the Arbiter corrected, including humanity itself. Nina stared at the display showing the architect's estimated arrival time, 72 hours. Well, she said, this just got complicated. The galaxy, Nina discovered, handled impending doom about as well as humans did, which was to say, with chaos, panic, and aggressive capitalism. 48 hours before the architect's arrival, she was fielding calls from 3 different black market tissue dealers, 2 pharmaceutical companies trying to patent human immune cells, and 1 very persistent Luminari monk who wanted to sell her blessed human artifacts that were definitely just stolen laundry. "I'm hanging up now," Nina said to the monk, "but the sacred undergarments could save billions." She terminated the connection and pulled up the latest reports. They weren't encouraging. The human immunity syndrome, because of course the media had given it an acronym. HIS had reached 40% of known space. Hospitals across 17 civilizations were reporting record-low patient counts. Disease-ravaged colonies were experiencing their first plague-free seasons in generations. 3 entire species had eliminated genetic disorders overnight, and the architects were coming to undo all of it. "This is insane," Nina muttered, scrolling through economic reports. Pharmaceutical industries were collapsing. Medical supply companies were filing bankruptcy. One megacorporation that had monopolized disease treatment for 2 centuries lost 90% of its stock value in a single afternoon. Her console chimed. It was Dr. Vix Thrall, the Ztharian scientist. "Dr. Petrov, have you reviewed the latest data on immune network communication?" "The what now?" "Species infected with HIS are reporting intuitions about health threats. A Korthax engineer on Station 47 suddenly just knew, that the air recyclers were contaminated. Saved 3,000 lives. A Vraxian admiral correctly predicted food poisoning before anyone showed symptoms." Nina pulled up the data. Dozens of similar reports. Hundreds. Aliens experiencing human-like instincts about danger, disease, contamination. "You gave them our paranoia," Nina said slowly. "Our threat detection instincts." "It's more than paranoia. It's pattern recognition, risk assessment. The virus didn't just upgrade their immune systems, it gave them human survival instincts." "That explains why the Korthax are panicking. They're experiencing anxiety for the first time." "And the Luminari are interpreting it as divine prophecy," Vix Thrall added. "They believe these intuitions are messages from the blessed healers. There are now pilgrimage sites on 40 human-occupied worlds. One enterprising human is charging admission." "Of course they are," Nina rubbed her temples. "What's the galactic response to the architect's arrival?" "Mixed. Some species want humanity quarantined immediately to preserve what immunity we've gained. Others want the reset because they're terrified of long-term effects. The Luminari are threatening holy war if anyone interferes with the blessing. It's a mess." Nina pulled up images of the architect's fleet. Massive sterilization vessels, each one larger than Earth's moon, moving through space with the patient inevitability of cosmic janitors coming to clean up a spill. "Have they responded to any communication attempts?" "Yes, they sent one message, correcting biological contamination. Do not interfere." "Great. Space Pest Control thinks we're the infestation." Her console exploded with alerts. The human immunity syndrome had just jumped to 60% coverage. Somehow it had accelerated. "How?" Nina demanded. "Trade routes," Vix Thrall explained. "Everyone's trying to get their last exposure to humans before the architects arrive. There's a waiting list 3 million names long for visits to Earth. People are paying thousands of credits for shuttle rides near human colonies. One station is selling authentic human atmosphere samples. They're selling our air. For 10,000 credits per container." Nina wanted to laugh, But the situation was spiraling beyond absurd into actively dangerous. Species were flooding toward human space, desperate for immunity before the reset. Quarantine zones were being overwhelmed. Station authorities were losing control. Dr. Petrov, Vix Thrall said quietly, "There's something else. We've detected anomalies in the Architect's countervirus as it approaches." "What kind of anomalies?" "The kind that suggests the galaxy's collective immune system is already aware of the threat. Species across multiple sectors are reporting preparation, responses. Their bodies are preparing for an invasion they shouldn't know is coming." Nina felt ice in her stomach. The network is defending itself. Yes, which means when the Architects release their countervirus, they won't just be fighting humanity's immunity, they'll be fighting the galaxy's. 24 hours until arrival. Nina watched the tactical displays as the Architect's fleet entered scanning range. Then her console showed something impossible. The countervirus the Architects were carrying, their perfect biological reset weapon, was changing, mutating. Even from this distance, even in containment, the galaxy's immune network was learning about it, analyzing it, preparing responses. "Oh no," Nina whispered. "What?" "The virus isn't waiting for them to release it. It's already adapting. The Architects brought a weapon to fight human immunity, but the galaxy's immune system has already studied it and started creating antibodies." "That's impossible. They're still in deep space." "Since when has impossible meant anything with human biology?" Nina pulled up projections. "They're going to release a countervirus that the galaxy has already learned to defeat. They're not going to reset anything. They're going to give us another upgrade. You need to warn them." "Why would they listen?" "Because," Vix Thrall said, "if you're right, they're about to make humanity even more contagious, and no one in the galaxy is ready for what comes next." Nina opened a priority channel to the Architect's flagship. "This is Dr. Nina Petrov of Earth. You need to abort your countervirus deployment." The response was immediate and cold. "Biological contamination will be corrected. Your species will be sterilized." "You don't understand. Your weapon won't work. The galaxy's already adapted." Silence. "The contamination speaks to preserve itself." Expected behavior. The connection terminated. 12 hours until arrival. Nina watched helplessly as the Architects entered the outer rim of human-occupied space and began deploying their countervirus. She watched as the galaxy's immune system, 60% of all known species, connected through humanity's modified virus, responded as one. And she watched as the Architect's perfect weapon was absorbed, analyzed, and reprogrammed before it could even reach a single target. "Well," Nina said to empty air, "they were warned." The Architect's countervirus lasted approximately 47 minutes before the galaxy's immune system ate it for breakfast. Nina watched the telemetry with a mixture of awe and horror. The countervirus deployed across 3 sectors simultaneously, a beautifully coordinated attack designed to reset biological functions to their pre-human baseline. It should have worked. The math was perfect. The delivery system was flawless. The galaxy just didn't care. Species across light years responded in perfect synchronization. Their upgraded immune systems identified the threat, communicated the solution through the human viral network, and developed antibodies faster than the Architects could deploy additional waves. Within an hour, the countervirus wasn't just neutralized, it was incorporated. "Dr. Petrov," the Architect's cold voice crackled over the channel they'd previously closed, "explain this impossibility." Nina couldn't help herself. She laughed. "You want me to explain how your genocide weapon became a galactic health network?" "Sure." Humans survived Earth, the galaxy's most aggressively lethal planet. Everything there tried to kill us for millions of years. We got really, really good at not dying. This exceeds normal adaptive immunity. Normal for who? You designed a virus to kill us quietly. Instead, you gave us a weapon we could actually use. You essentially handed a survival manual to the species that wrote the book on survival. What did you think would happen? Silence from the architect's flagship. Here's what you missed, Nina continued, pulling up the immune network data. You didn't infect humanity. Humanity infected your virus. We took your weapon, made it better, and shared it with everyone. That's what humans do. We break your rules, survive anyway, and make it everyone else's problem. The biological contamination cannot be allowed. It's already done. 80% of the galaxy now has human-modified immunity. Your countervirus just became part of the system. Congratulations, you made us stronger. Another long silence. Then, this is unacceptable. And yet, accepted. You can either leave peacefully or stick around and see what other fun mutations we accidentally create. Your choice. The architect's fleet began a slow, deliberate retreat. Nina watched them go, feeling the weight of what had just happened. Her console chimed with a new designation from the Galactic Council: Humanity, Biological Diplomatic Ambassadors. Status: Mandatory Presence. Warning: Extreme health hazard. We tried to kill you with a virus, a Vraxian message read. You turned it into the galaxy's immune system. The irony has developed antibodies. Nina leaned back, watching alerts flood in. Aliens reporting they could now sense diseases before symptoms appeared. Entire medical industries restructuring around human biology. The Luminari declaring a new holy calendar based on the year of blessed contamination. Someone was selling authentic human breath samples for 100,000 credits. Welcome to the galactic immune system, Nina muttered, updating her status to away. Humanity, the galaxy's white blood cells. You're welcome. Now leave me alone. I need a vacation. Her console showed one final message. 17 more species had just requested human embassy stations. Nina sighed and poured herself a drink. Being the galaxy's immune system was exhausting, but at least the benefits were good.